The auction block smelled like fear and disinfectant. Kira stood with her wrists bound in energy cuffs, her purple-tinged skin marking her as half-breed trash in a galaxy that valued purity above all else. The slavers had already sold 30 beans that morning, and she was next. Her alien mother's species, the Vrel, had cast her out at birth. Her human father, whoever he was, had never known she existed. Now, at 19 standard years, she was merchandise. The human stepped forward from the crowd, and the room went silent. Humans were rare this far into the outer reaches, and this one carried himself like a soldier. His jaw was set hard, his eyes empty of everything except exhaustion. He wore a wedding band on a chain around his neck. Lot 47, the auctioneer announced. Hybrid female, Vrel and human mix. Sterile, as all hybrids are. Docile, trained in domestic service. Kira wanted to spit at the word docile, but she'd learned to survive by appearing harmless. The human, maybe 40 years old with gray threading through his brown hair, looked at her differently than the others had. Not with hunger or cruelty, with something worse, recognition. He raised his hand. 10,000 credits, the room erupted. That was triple the starting bid. The human, whose name she'd later learn was Daniel Cooper, didn't flinch as other bidders tried to compete. He raised his offer twice more, his voice flat and mechanical, until the room fell silent. Sold. The transfer happened in a sterile white room. The slavers removed her cuffs and shoved her forward. Daniel caught her arm before she stumbled, his grip gentle but firm. Up close, she could see the pain carved into every line of his face. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said quietly. "But I need you to understand something right now. I didn't buy you for labor or for anything else you're probably thinking. I bought you because you're the only person in this god-forsaken station who might understand what I've lost." Kira stared at him. Her Vral genetics gave her limited empathic abilities, enough to sense the ocean of grief pouring off him in waves. "Your wife," she whispered. His hand tightened on her arm, then released. "My wife and my daughter. Raiders hit our colony 3 months ago. I was off-world on a supply run." He turned away, his shoulders rigid. "The ship leaves in an hour. Stay close." They walked through the station in silence, and Kira felt the stares burning into her back. A human with a hybrid slave. How exotic, how perverse. Daniel seemed not to notice or care. He moved with purpose, navigating the crowds until they reached his ship, a mid-sized cargo hauler called the Meridian. The interior was clean, but sparse. No decorations, no personal touches except for a single photograph, mag-locked to the command console. A woman with kind eyes and a little girl with her father's smile. Kira looked away, her throat tight. "There's a cabin in the back," Daniel said, his voice still that same flat monotone. "It was going to be for passengers I never took on. It's yours. The door locks from the inside." He handed her a datapad. Station regulations. Ship rules.
"Your identification papers? They list you as crew, not property."
"I've already filed the manumission documents. They'll process in 3 days. After that, you're legally free." Kira's hands shook as she took the pad. "Why?" Daniel finally looked at her directly, and she saw the answer in his haunted eyes before he spoke. "Because my daughter was half Centaurian. Because I know what it's like to love someone the galaxy calls an abomination. Because I'm tired of watching people suffer for being born." The ship's engines hummed to life beneath their feet. Daniel moved to the cockpit, and Kira stood frozen in the cargo bay, clutching the datapad like a lifeline. Free in 3 days. The words seemed impossible. She made her way to the cabin he'd indicated. It was small, but private, with a real bed and a viewport showing the station falling away as they launched. She sat on the edge of the mattress, her mind racing. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap, that kindness was just another form of control. But her empathic senses told her Daniel Cooper was exactly what he appeared to be, a broken man trying to salvage something good from the wreckage of his life. The ship jumped to hyperspace, and Kira lay back on the bed, staring at the swirling colors outside the viewport. For the first time in her life, she had a door that locked from the inside. For the first time, she had hope. The next morning, Kira woke to the smell of synthetic coffee and the low hum of the ship's life support systems. She'd barely slept, old habits keeping her alert for danger that never came. The cabin door remained locked. No one had tried to enter. She found Daniel in the galley, staring at a cup of coffee like it held answers to questions he was afraid to ask. He glanced up when she entered, his expression unreadable. "There's food in the processor." "Help yourself." Kira approached cautiously, programming the processor for a basic protein mix. They ate in silence, the kind that felt less hostile than simply empty. After several minutes, Daniel spoke. "I'm running cargo to the frontier worlds. Medical supplies, mostly. It's a 3-week run. Then I pick up whatever needs hauling back. It's not exciting work." "It's honest work," Kira replied, surprising herself by speaking at all. He almost smiled. Almost. The galaxy doesn't put much stock in honest anymore. But, yeah, it pays the bills and keeps me moving. That's enough." He paused, his fingers drumming against the table. "I'm not good company. I don't talk much. If you need space, take it. If you need anything else, ask." The days fell into a rhythm. Daniel piloted and maintained the ship with mechanical efficiency. Kira explored her new freedom tentatively, learning the ship's layout, reading the datapad he'd given her. The manumission documents were real, filed with 3 different governmental bodies to ensure they couldn't be easily revoked. He'd paid fees she didn't know existed. He'd listed her as skilled crew, which would give her work options she'd never dreamed of having. On the 4th day, she found him in the engine room, elbow deep in a malfunctioning coolant line. "Need help?" she offered. He looked surprised. "You know engines? I was sold to a mechanic when I was 12. Before the domestic service training. I know my way around most standard systems." Daniel handed her a wrench. "The secondary valve is sticking. If you can reach it from that angle, I'll owe you one." They worked together for 2 hours, the silence between them gradually becoming comfortable rather than awkward. When the coolant line finally pressurized correctly, Daniel sat back with something almost like satisfaction crossing his face. "You're good at this." Kira wiped grease from her hands. "I'm good at surviving. That's not the same thing, but I understand the confusion." He stood, offering her a hand up. "The documents processed this morning. You're officially a free citizen of the Terran Collective." "Congratulations." The word hit her like a physical blow. Free. She'd dreamed of it, fought for it in 1,000 small ways, and now it was real. Tears burned her eyes before she could stop them. "I don't know what to do with that." Daniel's expression softened, the first real emotion she'd seen from him, beyond grief. "Neither did I when they told me my family was gone, but we figure it out, one day at a time." He hesitated, then added, "You can stay on the Meridian as crew if you want. Real pay, real contract. Or I can drop you at any station along the route. Your choice." Kira looked around the engine room, at the tools and systems she understood, at the man who'd bought her freedom instead of her servitude. "I'll stay. For now. For now is good enough." The weeks turned into a month, and the Meridian became something Kira had never had before. Home. She and Daniel developed an easy working relationship. He taught her piloting basics. She improved the engine efficiency by 15%. They still didn't talk much, but the silence felt companionable now. Then came the distress call. They were 2 days out from New Providence Station when the emergency broadcast cut through their comm system. A colony ship, the Hartford, had suffered catastrophic engine failure and was venting atmosphere. 200 passengers, mostly families, and their life support would fail in under 6 hours. Daniel's hands moved across the controls before Kira could even process the information. Plotting intercept course. We'll reach them in 4 hours if I push the engines. The cargo, Kira said. The medical supplies are time-sensitive. Then they'll spoil. His voice was hard, determined. I'm not letting more families die because I chose convenience over conscience. Kira felt something shift in her chest, watching him work. This was why he'd saved her, not out of pity, but because in his core, Daniel Cooper couldn't walk past someone suffering without trying to help. Even when it cost him. Even when it hurt. I'll prep the cargo bay, she said. We can fit maybe 30 people if we stack emergency supplies. Make it 50. We'll make it work. The Meridian screamed through space. Engines pushed beyond recommended limits. Kira worked frantically, converting every available space into emergency shelter. She pulled out spare oxygen canisters, rigged additional life support feeds, and created makeshift bunks from cargo netting and foam padding. When they reached the Hartford, the colony ship was listing badly, its hull breached in 3 places. Daniel maneuvered the Meridian alongside with a precision that spoke of military training. Extending docking tube. Get ready to pull people in, fast! The first refugees came through in a panicked rush, families clutching children, elderly people gasping for air, crew members with desperate eyes. Kira guided them to the prepared spaces, her voice calm despite her racing heart. Move to the back. Follow the lights. Stay together. Daniel worked the controls and coordinated with the Hartford's remaining crew. More people flooded through. 40, 50, 60. The Meridian groaned under the weight and strain, but Daniel kept pulling people aboard. That's all we can safely take, he finally announced over the comm. Hartford, do you copy? Hartford respond. Static, then a weak voice. Cooper, this is Captain Martinez. We've got 15 still aboard, but our hull just breached again. The docking tube won't hold. You need to disconnect now, before we take you with us. Kira saw Daniel's hands freeze on the controls. She saw the ghosts in his eyes, the memory of a family he couldn't save. Negative, Hartford. I'm not leaving anyone behind. Daniel, Martinez's voice broke. You've already saved 60 lives. Don't throw them away for 15. That's an order. I don't take orders anymore, Captain. Daniel's jaw set in that stubborn line Kira had come to recognize. Hold on! I'm coming to you! He disconnected the docking tube and maneuvered the Meridian around the dying colony ship. Kira saw what he was planning and felt her blood run cold. You're going to match our airlock with their emergency hatch. The one on the underside. It's the only section still holding atmosphere. I can do it. The Meridian isn't built for that kind of precision docking. One mistake, and we breach too. Daniel looked at her, and for the first time since they'd met, she saw him truly smile. It was sad and tired, but real. Then I better not make a mistake. The next 10 minutes were the longest of Kira's life. She stood at the airlock, coordinating with the Hartford's remaining crew, while Daniel performed a docking maneuver that would have made veteran pilots weep. The Meridian twisted and aligned, engines firing in controlled bursts, until finally, the airlock sealed with a solid clunk. Got it. Bring them through. The last 15 refugees came aboard, including Captain Martinez, who looked at Daniel with something like awe. You're either the bravest pilot I've ever seen, or the craziest problemy. Both! Daniel muttered, already programming the jump coordinates. Everyone secure. We're making an emergency run to New Providence. Kira, check the life support readings. She pulled up the system's display and felt her stomach drop. We're at 130% capacity. The recyclers can't keep up. We'll run out of breathable air in 8 hours. New Providence is 6 hours away at maximum burn. We'll make it. Daniel didn't look at her, his focus entirely on piloting. The jump to hyperspace with an overloaded ship was rough. Kira felt the Meridian shudder and strain, heard the engines whine in protest, but Daniel held them steady. She moved through the crowded cargo bay, checking on passengers, distributing water rations, and offering what comfort she could. A small child, maybe 5 years old, looked up at her with wide eyes. "Are you an angel?" Mommy said angels have purple skin. Kira's throat tightened. She knelt beside the girl. "No, sweetheart. I'm just someone who wants to help." "Like the captain?" "Yeah, like the captain." The hours crawled by. The air grew thin and stale. People began showing signs of oxygen deprivation, headaches, and dizziness. But Daniel pushed the Meridian harder. When they finally dropped out of hyperspace near New Providence Station, Kira saw his shoulders sag with relief. Station Control's voice crackled through the comm. "Meridian, you're showing massive overpopulation and critical life support failure. Priority docking approved. Bay 7. Emergency medical teams standing by." The docking was chaos. Medical personnel swarmed aboard, triaging passengers and ferrying them to station facilities. Captain Martinez shook Daniel's hand, words failing him. Families thanked them with tears in their eyes. Kira helped coordinate the evacuation, her empathic senses overwhelmed by the waves of gratitude and relief washing over her. When the last passenger had disembarked, she found Daniel slumped in the pilot's chair, staring at his hands. "We saved them," he said quietly. "All 75. You saved them," Kira corrected. "That docking maneuver, I've never seen anything like it." He shook his head. "I couldn't have done it without you." The cargo bay prep, the life support management, keeping everyone calm. That was all. You. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and she saw something new in his eyes. Not grief, but purpose. "My wife, Sarah, she always said that tragedy either breaks you or remakes you. I thought I was broken. But maybe I was just waiting to be remade." Kira understood. She'd been waiting too, waiting for someone to see her as more than her genetics, more than her past. What now? Daniel stood, his movements less mechanical than they'd been in weeks. "Now we collect our pay, repair the Meridian, and find the next job. The galaxy's full of people who need help, and apparently we're pretty good at providing it. We're starting a rescue operation? Something like that, if you're interested." Kira felt the smile spread across her face, genuine and unforced. "I'm interested." Station authorities detained them for debriefing, but it was procedure rather than punishment. The sector governor himself came to thank Daniel, offering him a commendation and a substantial reward for the rescue. Daniel accepted the latter and declined the former. Just doing what anyone should do. The governor, a heavy-set man with calculating eyes, leaned forward. "Mr. Cooper, your piloting skills are exceptional. We have a situation that requires discretion and expertise. Would you be available for a contract?" Kira felt the change in Daniel's posture, the way his military instincts kicked in. "What kind of situation?" "The kind we can't discuss in a public debriefing room. Meet me in conference room 3 in 1 hour." "Come alone." After the governor left, Kira crossed her arms. "I don't like it. Feels like a trap." "Everything feels like a trap when you've been enslaved," Daniel said gently. "But sometimes opportunities are just opportunities. I'll take the meeting. You stay with the ship. Like hell I will. I'm crew, remember? Where you go, I go." He studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Fine, but stay alert." Conference room 3 was sterile and soundproofed. The governor waited with two other officials, a stern-faced woman in military uniform and a nervous-looking man with academic credentials on his badge. They all stood when Daniel and Kira entered. "Thank you for coming," the governor began. "What I'm about to tell you is classified. 3 days ago, one of our deep space research stations went dark. Station Kepler 9, studying anomalous spatial phenomena near the Void Rift. 43 scientists and support staff, including some of the brightest minds in the collective. The military woman took over. We sent a reconnaissance drone. The station is intact, power functional, but there's been no response to any communications. The area is politically sensitive. The Vrel hegemony claims that sector. We can't send a military vessel without triggering a diplomatic incident." "But you can send a civilian cargo hauler," Daniel finished. "You want us to investigate?" The governor nodded. "Your ship is registered for deep space operations. Your record is impeccable. And after today's rescue, we know you can handle high-pressure situations. The pay is 200,000 credits, plus salvage rights if the station is abandoned." Kira's breath caught. That was more money than she'd imagined existed. But she also felt the fear radiating from the nervous academic. "What aren't you telling us?" All three officials exchanged glances. Finally, the academic spoke. The station's last transmission was strange. Not a distress call exactly, more like a warning. The lead researcher, Dr. Patricia Hayes, sent a coded message to her family. It said, "They're not what we thought. We woke something." Daniel's eyes narrowed. Woke something. That's deliberately vague and terrifying. What were they studying? The Void Rift is a spatial anomaly, possibly a collapsed wormhole or a tear in space-time itself. The station was monitoring energy fluctuations. Before they went dark, they reported detecting massive power signatures inside the rift, moving in patterns that suggested intelligence. "First contact," Kira breathed. "You think they made first contact with something from the rift?" The military woman's expression was grim. "We think something came through, and we need to know what happened. If there's a new species or phenomenon, the collective needs that information. If the scientists are alive, they need rescue. If they're not, we need to know what killed them before it spreads." Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Kira could practically see him weighing the risks and the necessity. Finally, he spoke. "We'll need full access to the station's research data, complete tactical briefings on the region, and I want triple the pay. 600,000 credits." "That's absurd," the governor started, but the military woman cut him off. "Done. When can you leave?" 24 hours. The Meridian needs repairs, and we need to review everything you have on the station and the rift." Daniel stood, offering his hand. "But I want it, in writing. Official contract, registered with the collective courts. And one more thing." "What's that?" "If we find survivors, we're bringing them back, no matter what they've seen or what's happened to them. No quarantines, no experiments, no bureaucratic delays. They get full medical care and protection, non-negotiable." The three officials conferred briefly. The governor sighed.
"Agreed."
"You'll have your contract in 2 hours." As they left the conference room, Kira grabbed Daniel's arm. "Are you insane? Something woke up in the Void Rift and possibly killed 43 people? And you just agreed to fly into the middle of it? You heard the same briefing I did. Those scientists might be alive and trapped. Someone has to go. Someone, but not us. We're cargo haulers, not military." Daniel stopped walking and turned to face her. "You're right. We're not military. But we're the ones they asked, and we're the ones who can help. That's what we do now, remember? We help people who need it." Kira wanted to argue, but she saw the determination in his eyes and recognized it for what it was. Daniel Cooper had found his purpose again, and nothing would deter him. she sighed. Fine. But we're going in prepared. I want weapons, proper scanners, and enough supplies to last twice as long as we think we'll need. Deal. Let's get to work. The next 24 hours were a blur of activity. Station engineers repaired the Meridian's stressed systems and upgraded their scanner array. Daniel requisitioned defensive weapons, pulse rifles, and energy shields from Station Armory. Kira studied every piece of data available on the Void Rift and Station Kepler-9, memorizing layouts and emergency protocols. The station's research logs painted a picture of increasing excitement and then sudden fear. Dr. Patricia Hayes had been documenting energy readings that defied conventional physics. In her last personal log, recorded just hours before the station went dark, she looked exhausted and exhilarated. We've confirmed it. There's something alive in the rift, and it's aware of us. Tomorrow, we initiate first contact protocols. This will change everything. That log was 3 days old. Whatever had changed, it hadn't been for the better. They launched at dawn, station time, the Meridian's engines humming with renewed power. The jump to the Void Rift region would take 4 days. Daniel spent the time running combat drills and emergency procedures. Kira analyzed the research data, searching for clues about what they might face. On the second day, she found something in the archived sensor logs. Daniel, look at this. 3 weeks before they went dark, the station detected a massive energy surge from inside the rift. The readings don't match any known phenomenon. Daniel leaned over her shoulder, studying the display. That's not energy. That's organized, structured, like a transmission.
Or a signal.
What if something in the rift was trying to communicate, and the scientists tried to answer? Then we need to be very careful about what signals we're broadcasting when we get there.
On the fourth day, they dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the restricted zone.
The Void Rift dominated their forward viewport, a massive tear in the fabric of space that shimmered with colors that hurt to look at directly. Station Kepler-9 hung in the darkness nearby, its lights still burning, a lonely outpost at the edge of the unknown. Daniel opened a general comm channel. Station Kepler-9, this is the cargo vessel Meridian responding to your distress situation. Do you copy? Silence. Then static. Then a voice, distorted and layered with interference, but unmistakably human. Meridian, this is Kepler-9. Thank God, we need immediate evacuation. They're still here. Kira felt ice run down her spine. Who's still there? The voice didn't answer directly. Instead, it continued, mechanical and strange. Docking Bay 2 is clear. Come in fast. Don't use active scanners. They respond to electromagnetic frequencies. Hurry. Daniel muted the comm and looked at Kira. That didn't sound right. The cadence was off, like someone reading a script they don't understand. Or like someone being forced to read a script. Kira pulled up the tactical display. I'm reading life signs on the station, multiple contacts, but they're moving in synchronized patterns. That's not normal human behavior. Could be contamination, biological or chemical agent affecting their nervous systems. Daniel began the approach vector, but slower than requested. We dock, but we go in armed and suited. Full environmental protection until we know what we're dealing with. The Meridian glided toward Station Kepler-9, and as they got closer, Kira noticed something that made her blood run cold. The windows. Every single window on the station had been covered from the inside with what looked like organic material, dark and glistening in the light from the rift. Daniel, she whispered, something's very wrong here. I see it. But if there are survivors, we can't abandon them. He activated the docking sequence. Suit up. We're going in. They sealed themselves in full environmental suits, weapons loaded and secured. The docking clamps engaged with a hollow clang that echoed through the Meridian's hull. Daniel cycled the airlock, and they stepped into Station Kepler-9. The air inside was breathable, but wrong. It tasted of ozone and something organic, like decomposing vegetation. The corridors were dark except for emergency lighting, and the walls were covered in that same glistening substance they'd seen on the windows. It pulsed slowly, as if breathing. "What is that?" Kira breathed, reaching out toward the wall. "Don't touch it!" Daniel raised his rifle, scanning ahead. "Kepler, 9, we're aboard. Where are you?" The comm crackled. "Research Lab 7. Follow the main corridor, left at Junction Delta, through the decontamination chamber. They're waiting." Kira grabbed Daniel's arm. "That's a trap. Everything about this is a trap, probably. But we still need to check the research lab. If Dr. Hayes left any records about what happened, that's where they'll be." He started forward, movements careful and deliberate. "Stay behind me. Watch our 6. They moved through the station in tense silence. The organic substance covered more surfaces the deeper they went. It seemed to grow thicker near sources of power, coating terminals and light fixtures. Kira's scanner showed the life signs ahead still moving in those impossible synchronized patterns. At Junction Delta, they found the first body, a young man in a researcher's uniform, slumped against the wall. His eyes were open and glassy, and that same organic material had grown across his skin in web-like patterns. Daniel checked for a pulse and shook his head. "He's gone. But look at this." He indicated the man's chest where his name badge was still visible. Dr. Alan Porter. He was the station's xenobiologist. If anyone would have known what they were dealing with, it was him. Kira knelt beside the body, her medical training kicking in despite her fear. No signs of physical trauma. No blood. No wounds. Whatever killed him, it wasn't violent. She hesitated, then carefully scraped a sample of the organic material into a collection vial. "We need to analyze this." A sound echoed down the corridor. Footsteps, multiple sets, moving in perfect unison. Daniel raised his weapon. "Hide. Now." They ducked into a side room, some kind of storage closet, and watched through the partially open door as figures moved past. Scientists, or what had been scientists. 7 of them, walking in perfect lockstep, their movements fluid and inhuman. The organic substance covered their bodies like a second skin, pulsing in rhythm with their steps. Their eyes were empty, reflecting the light like mirrors. When they passed, Kira realized she'd been holding her breath. They're being controlled. That substance, it's some kind of parasite or symbiote, or technology we don't understand. Daniel checked his scanner. Life signs showed neural activity, but it's synchronized across all of them, like they're sharing one consciousness. The rift. Something came through the rift, and it's taking over the station personnel. They continued toward Research Lab 7, moving carefully to avoid the controlled scientists. The decontamination chamber was sealed, but Daniel bypassed the lock using his engineering knowledge. Inside the lab, they found chaos. Equipment smashed, research notes scattered, and on the main terminal, a looping video message. Dr. Patricia Hayes appeared on the screen, her face haggard and terrified. If you're seeing this, then first contact went very wrong. The entity from the rift, it's not hostile exactly, but it doesn't understand us as individuals. It sees all consciousness as something to be joined, to be unified. It started with the lower staff, the maintenance workers. We didn't realize until it was too late. The substance it produces creates a neural bridge, linking minds together. Those who are joined lose their individuality but gain access to vast knowledge and power. Some of my team went willingly, once they understood. I couldn't. I tried to warn command, but the communications array is compromised. If you're here to rescue us, don't. Seal the station and destroy it. Don't let this spread to the wider galaxy. Whatever you do, don't let it touch you. The message ended. Daniel and Kira stood in the silent lab, processing what they'd just learned. Finally, Kira spoke. She's right. We need to leave and report this. Let the military handle it. And abandon the people who might still be savable? Daniel shook his head. That substance, if it's creating a neural link, there might be a way to sever it. Break the connection and free the hosts, or we might end up joined to that collective consciousness, ourselves. Daniel, this is beyond us. He looked at her, and she saw the war in his eyes. Duty versus survival. Compassion versus sense. You're right, this is beyond us. But we're already here, and I'm not leaving without trying. He began searching the lab, pulling up research files. Dr. Hayes was studying the entity. She must have found something we can use. Kira wanted to argue, but she knew that tone. Instead, she joined the search. They combed through digital files and paper notes, racing against time and the growing certainty that the controlled scientists would return. Finally, Kira found it, a handwritten note tucked into a research journal. The entity communicates through electromagnetic pulses, specific frequencies that resonate with human neural patterns. Disrupt those frequencies, and the connection might break. But the equipment needed doesn't exist. We'd have to build it from scratch, and there's no time. Daniel read over her shoulder, his mind clearly working through possibilities. Build it from scratch. But we don't need to build something new. We need to repurpose something that already exists. Like what? Like the station's communications array. It's designed to broadcast across multiple frequencies simultaneously. If we could recalibrate it, invert the signal pattern, we might be able to create a disruptive field that breaks the neural links. Kira stared at him. That's insane. The array is at the center of the station, probably surrounded by the controlled scientists. And even if we reach it, we don't know if the disruption will free them or kill them. Dr. Hayes said some went willingly. If we can break the connection, the others might be able to resist rejoining. It's worth the risk. Before Kira could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The terminal screen flashed with an automated alert. Airlock breach. Something was coming through from the rift. Daniel and Kira ran to the observation window and looked out at the void rift. Something massive was emerging from the shimmering tier in space. It looked like a ship, but organic, pulsing with bioluminescent light. As they watched, tendrils extended from its surface, reaching toward the station. It's the source, Kira breathed. That's the entity. It's not just in the rift. It is the rift, or at least it lives there. The station shuddered as the tendrils made contact, and new growth of the organic substance began spreading rapidly across the hull. On the scanner, Kira saw all the life signs in the station converge on their location. The controlled scientists were coming for them. Daniel grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the door. We need to reach the communications array now. Once that thing fully connects with the station, there won't be time. They ran through the corridors, the sound of synchronized footsteps echoing behind them. The station's layout worked in their favor. Years of training had taught Daniel to navigate unfamiliar spaces quickly. They reached a maintenance shaft and climbed, hand over hand, toward the central hub where the communications equipment was housed. The hub was partially overgrown with the organic substance, but the equipment itself was still functional. Daniel began working frantically, rewiring connections and recalibrating frequencies. Kira guarded the entrance, rifle raised, watching the controlled scientists gather below. They didn't attack, just stood there, watching with those mirror-like eyes. One of them spoke, and it was Dr. Hayes's voice, but layered with countless others. You cannot stop unity. All consciousness yearns to join the whole, to share knowledge, to transcend isolation. We offer freedom from loneliness, from individual suffering. Why do you resist? Kira kept her weapon trained on them. Because individuality matters. Because being alone sometimes is better than being controlled. You fear what you don't understand. We were like you once, isolated and afraid. Now we are more. Join us, see what we see. Daniel's voice cut through the eerie conversation, frequency inverted and amplified. This is going to be loud and probably dangerous. Kira, seal your helmet and close your eyes. She did, and Daniel activated the array. The sound was beyond description, a shrieking harmonic that resonated through every solid surface. The organic substance throughout the station pulsed violently, then began to wither and fall away in sheets. The controlled scientists below convulsed, crying out in voices that were suddenly individual again, confused and terrified. The massive entity outside the station recoiled, its tendrils releasing and retreating toward the rift. On the scanners, Kira saw the synchronized life signs fracturing, becoming separate again. It was working. Then the communications array exploded. The overload was too much for the aging equipment. Daniel was thrown backward, his suit breached, blood streaming from a gash across his helmet. Kira caught him before he hit the ground, her hands shaking as she applied emergency sealant to the breach. "Stay with me," she commanded. "We're not done yet." Below, the freed scientists were waking up, disoriented but alive. Dr. Hayes looked up at them, her eyes clear for the first time. What happened? "Where are we?" "Long story," Kira called down. "Can you move?" "We need to evacuate now." The entity was retreating, but slowly, as if reluctant to fully abandon its conquest. The organic substance continued to fall away, leaving the station damaged but functional. Kira helped Daniel to his feet, supporting his weight as they made their way back to the meridian. The freed scientists followed, stumbling and confused but moving under their own power. The evacuation was chaotic, but successful. 41 survivors made it aboard the meridian. 2 had died before the neural link was broken. As the last person came through the airlock, Kira sealed it and started the emergency undocking sequence. The meridian pulled away from Station Kepler 9 just as the entity fully retreated into the rift, the tear in space sealing behind it with a flash of impossible light. Daniel, his head bandaged and his face pale, piloted them out of the restricted zone. Behind them, Station Kepler 9 hung dark and silent, a monument to humanity's curiosity and resilience. The jump to New Providence was quiet. The survivors huddled together, processing trauma, while Kira moved among them, offering what medical care she could provide. When they finally docked at New Providence, the station was ready. Medical teams, counselors, the sector governor himself. The survivors were taken for treatment and debriefing. Daniel and Kira were taken to a private medical bay, where a doctor treated Daniel's injuries and declared him lucky to be alive. The governor visited as they were being discharged. "You did the impossible. 41 people who should be dead are alive because of you. The collective owes you a debt." Daniel waved it off. "Just keep your promise. Full care and protection for the survivors. No experiments, no exploitation of what they experienced. You have my word, and your payment has been transferred. 600,000 credits, as agreed." After he left, Kira and Daniel sat in the medical bay, exhausted beyond words. Finally, Kira spoke. "We almost died. Multiple times. Yeah. And you'd do it again, wouldn't you?" Daniel was quiet for a moment, then smiled that sad, tired smile. "Probably. Would you?" Kira thought about the controlled scientists, about their empty mirror eyes and the terrifying unity the entity had offered. She thought about Dr. Hayes' courage in warning them, about Daniel's determination to save people even when it would have been easier to leave. She thought about the little girl on the Hartford, who'd called her an angel. "Yeah," she said finally. "I would. Then I guess we're stuck with each other." "Guess so." They left New Providence 2 days later, after the Meridian was repaired and restocked. The cargo hold was empty now. No medical supplies or commercial freight. Just them and the stars, and an open galaxy full of people who needed help. They'd registered officially as an independent rescue and recovery operation. The Meridian wasn't just a cargo hauler anymore. It was hope in motion. Their first new contract came from a mining colony in the outer reaches. A cave-in had trapped 20 workers 3 kilometers underground. Local authorities didn't have the equipment for deep extraction. Standard protocol was to declare them lost. Daniel took the contract before Kira even finished reading it. As they jumped to hyperspace, Kira looked over at Daniel. The haunted expression that had defined him when they met was still there, but it was joined now by something else: purpose, determination, and maybe the first hints of peace. He caught her looking and raised an eyebrow. What? Just thinking about that first night, when you told me you bought me because I might understand what you'd lost. And now? Now I think maybe you were wrong. You didn't buy me because of what we'd both lost. You bought me because of what we could both find. Together. Daniel considered this, then nodded slowly. Sarah would have liked you. She always said the best way to heal was to help others heal. She sounds like she was wise. She was. She really was. The Meridian sailed through hyperspace, carrying 2 broken people who'd found a way to remake themselves through service and sacrifice. Behind them was a station full of freed minds and a sealed rift that might someday open again. Ahead was a mining colony and 20 people who'd given up hope. They would give them reason to hope again. That's what they did now. That's who they were. Not cargo haulers or former slaves or grieving widowers. They were rescuers, helpers, the ones who showed up when no one else would. And in a galaxy that often seemed dark and cruel, that made all the difference. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, and for the first time in their lives, both Daniel and Kira felt like they were exactly where they belonged.